Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vapestaff podcast. We recently published an article on vapestaff.com titled State by State Breakdown of E-Liquid and E-Cig Bans. Since publishing that article, obviously we've had the federal ban on flavored e-liquid cartridges. That is specifically banning the the flavors of cartridges for Juul and Enjoy and things like that you would typically see sold in gas stations around the country. So it's limited those cartridges to only tobacco and menthol flavored. The article that we wrote takes a closer look on a state by state level at what each state has done to I guess limit the access of vaping related products to teens. That seems to be the primary focus of any legislation that's been passed regarding vaping over the past year or so. In this podcast, I kind of want to take a minute to go through a state-by-state breakdown, give everyone an idea of where their state will be or where states around them are as far as legislation goes. Let's go ahead and start with some of the key states and some of the more interesting legislation to be passed and move on from there. I want to start with Michigan. So in early September 2019, Michigan was actually the first state to announce that they intended to limit the sale of vaping products. Governor Gretchen Whitmer actually issued an emergency ban on the online and retail sale of nicotine vaping products in any flavor except tobacco. She also, and this is going to be a common theme across most of these states, she also forbid using the terms clean, safe, or healthy when describing e-cigs. And I think a key point there is that, while e-cigs certainly contain fewer toxic chemicals than traditional cigarettes, research on their health effects is inconclusive at this point. So that emergency ban was made official on September 18th. It was set to last 180 days. It's already been overturned. So it's not been overturned. A judge basically ruled that Governor Whitmer overstepped her authority when she enacted the ban, and a judge basically put in place an injunction which will last the next 6 months, which will allow shops in the state of Michigan to once again sell vapored or flavored vaping products. Obviously, that does not include flavored cartridges, as the federal ban makes that illegal, regardless of what state it is. Another interesting state to look at, as it usually is New York. And Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York implemented a statewide ban on flavored nicotine vaping products. So in this case, again, it's any flavor other than tobacco or menthol flavored vaping products. Same thing online or in store. And it was kind of interesting because Cuomo went a little more in depth to say that, while they have been more heavily regulated than tobacco flavored products, mint and menthol e-liquids have not been subject to as many sale restrictions as sweet and fruity flavors, because his public health officials fear that banning them would push users back towards menthol flavored tobacco products for sale. And that's really what's at the root of this debate is, if you take away people's access to vaping related products, are you just pushing them back to tobacco smoke, which is undeniably more dangerous? Smoking anything obviously is less than ideal, but if you have thousands, millions of people relying on vaping products to not smoke tobacco, that's a good thing. It's something that is better than the alternative. So we just need to find something in the middle here. And Cuomo actually kind of hinted at that with his ruling. So as was the case in Michigan, once the New York ban went into place shortly after, it basically was set to take effect on October 4th. An appellate court put a hold on the ban, allowing retailers to continue selling the products. So jurisdiction passed to the state Supreme Court, which will then decide whether or not to grant Vapor Technology Association, which is an industry group in vapor, a preliminary injunction on the ban, which it looks like will be the case. So the next one I want to take a look at is Massachusetts. Again, a lot of the northeastern states. And what's interesting is I think Wikipedia's got a page where you can pull up every county's, I guess, a list of the counties in the United States that have banned vaping indoors, which is not nearly as robust as you would think. But when you get up to the Northeast, it's almost every county in the Northeast has banned indoor vaping. And surprisingly, down south here, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, they've done a decent job of banning indoor vaping there as well. It's kind of the rest of the United States just either doesn't have a rule on it, or it's allowed, or maybe they're allowing individual establishments to set their own rules. But in the majority of the counties in northeastern United States, you're not allowed to vape inside. Okay, and then in Massachusetts, Governor Charlie Baker declared a public health emergency in the face of more than 500 vaping-related lung illnesses and at least 7 deaths, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, including 5 illnesses in Massachusetts. So I'll let you, the listeners, do their own research on this as to what the cause was with those illnesses and deaths. I think the majority of the Vapestaff listeners are educated enough to know that perhaps a number of these people were using THC, and THC, when used in a vaping device, if it's coming from a third party, oftentimes cheaply made devices, tends to be thicker, and it does cause some real issues with the lungs. So there's a designation to be made there, but nonetheless, when you have 500 vaping related lung illnesses and 7 deaths, it's a reason to give this some attention. So Governor Baker in Massachusetts also announced that the country's strictest vaping prohibition would go into place. It was a 4-month ban on all online and retail sales of anything marijuana and tobacco vaping related. So flavored, non-flavored, menthol, everything. He banned everything for 4 months. So a release from the office kind of indicated that they plan to ban both marijuana and nicotine due to continuing uncertainty over what was causing the lung illnesses. Again, we just kind of discussed that. And the CDC there actually came out and said that the majority of the people that reported vaping-related illnesses had used products containing THC. They did say that some had reported only using nicotine. The problem with that is obviously, are you going to admit that you put THC in your vapor or you're using, vaping THC, particularly if you're a younger person who might be in the hospital with family. That might be a tough spot to admit to something like that. So it's going to be really hard to track down the truth on that and what the numbers really are. But they at least were able to verify right off the bat that a number of them were using THC. So staying up in the Northeast with Rhode Island, this basically came down a day after Massachusetts announced their ban. The Rhode Island governor, Gina Raimondo, signed an executive order directing the state's Department of Public Health to ban the sale of flavored e-cigarette in the states, in the state. So she didn't specify whether it included menthol. I believe they're still selling menthol in tobacco flavored products in Massachusetts. So the ban was put in place for 120 days, and at the end of those 120 days, Massachusetts can decide whether or not they want to extend it for another 60 days. So a lot of these states are just kind of positioning themselves to be able to do at least 3, 4 to 6 months of research before they make a decision on how they want to move forward. Obviously, with flavored cartridges now banned, it kind of gives them a leg up on that, as we know the data shows us that teens are much more interested in cartridges. It's some interesting, actually, a federally funded research study showed that teens were smoking as much menthol as they were flavored e-cigs. So they kind of, either need to include menthol in that, or, they're not truly respecting the study. But I do understand that, the issue at hand here is is not wanting to push people back into smoking. So there has to be a middle ground, and I think we'll find it over the next 6 months. We'll figure that out. Okay, so moving out of the Northeast, Montana on October 8th drafted their own emergency administrative rules banning the sale of all flavored e-cigs, including those with THC and CBD, for 120 days. I think that's the key, is the states that are including those with THC. Again, it has to be legal to sell them to begin with in the state. But the states that, THC is legal, are being very closely specifying that those are banned. I think because a lot of these states in the studies that they're doing is showing that the THC vaping products are much different from the nicotine ones. Okay, so that rule was set to go in effect on the 22nd, and in a similar situation on October 19, a judge signed a temporary restraining order after vapor shops around the state filed a lawsuit claiming the action was overly restrictive and could put the stores out of business. No word yet on if the state of Montana plans to follow through with that, or if they're going to just let the federal banning of flavored cartridges suffice for now. And then in the state of Washington, same time frame, October 8, Montana, October 9, Washington. Again, this was that kind of stretch of time where a lot was going down with the vaping industry. We had reports coming out almost on a daily basis that people were getting sick. And I think that they'll be able to track down a lot of these two vaping devices that contain THC, many of which probably were not manufactured or sold even in the United States, which we know is a major problem in the industry. It's just an industry that needs regulation, a lot more regulation than it has right now. I don't think any of these bans are going to be permanent, the ones that we're going to discuss today. I think more than likely what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot more research done, a lot more regulation, and it's going to be perhaps more expensive and a little bit tougher to buy vaping devices, but you will be able to for the foreseeable future. So again, same exact situation here, 120-day ban on October 9th in the state of Washington. In this case, Governor Jay Inslee called the state's Board of Health to ban all flavored vaping products, including those containing THC. It's you're going to hear the same story over and over again. It's met with harsh opposition from vaping shop owners and vapors. You actually had people outside of the Board of Health voting session, chanting shame and other things in the state of Washington while they were voting on this rule. So, and then in Oregon, 2 days later, you have the governor there filing rules that would forbid the sale of flavored nicotine and cannabis vaping products for 6 months. In addition to that, they actually put a number on it. So basically, repeat offending retailers would have fines up to $500 per violation per day. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but the policy was partially blocked by an appeals judge who halted the ban on nicotine products. The ban on cannabis products was not affected. So as of today, you still can't buy vaping cannabis products, and the judge basically looked at the data and said that there wasn't enough there to say that that warranted a ban of nicotine vaping products, but he did obviously see the evidence that we've talked about and banned cannabis related vaping products. California, kind of one of the more famous cases here, because it's very seldom that you'll hear on this podcast that we think California got it absolutely right, but they really did here. So Governor Gavin Newsom on September 16 issued an executive order focused on curtailing the state's youth vaping epidemic. Among other actions, the order allocates at least $20 million for a vaping awareness program. We have one here in the county that I live in Florida, and it is extremely effective. I know for the most part, the kids in the school system that my kids go to are scared to death of vaping, and you kind of get an ew gross reaction out of them anytime you bring it up. Similar to, I think, what maybe our generation, how we were brought up with tobacco smoke. So I do think that these campaigns can be effective. I think that they need to start in the middle schools for sure, and especially when you look at urban areas, you have to start in the middle schools. But anyways, so his order allocates $20 million for a vaping awareness campaign, and it called on state agencies to develop recommendations for limiting the sales of vaping products to anyone younger than 21 and the sales of illegal and counterfeit vaping products broadly. So essentially, he's already put the money into making the preteens more aware of the dangers that come with vaping. And then he's calling on his state agencies to develop recommendations to on how they can limit the sales of vaping products to anyone under 21. I think he, looked at the idea of banning it, realized it probably wasn't something that could stick, and decided the better approach here was to fix the problem, which is what they seem intent on doing here. And then the order also requests that California Department of Public Health develop standards requiring e-cig retailers to post warning signs about the health risks of vaping. Newsom's also said that he would like to ban flavored e-cigarettes outright, but cannot do so through executive action alone. Again, they're trying to fix the issue at hand, which is I think what needs to be the path forward for most states. And then another little interesting side note in California is that San Francisco, which is actually where Juul is based, was the first major U.S. city to ban the sale of all nicotine e-cig products outright. A Juul-backed coalition opposes the ban, and it will go before a public vote here this year. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors is also moving towards a similar ban. So you've got a couple cities in California that are trying to ban the use of or the sale of all nicotine e-cig products, which is interesting considering you can buy tobacco, cigarettes in those cities still. But we'll see how that works out for them. Okay, so that's basically a summary. And again, I recommend people check out, if you just do a search for state by state breakdown of e-liquid and e-cig bans and regulations, you can get an updated one. You can find it right at vapestaff.com on our homepage. We keep our page, if you're watching the video right now, I've got it pulled up. We keep this page completely updated with the latest regulations in every state. We'll also put some interesting facts in there, like the cities and some of the indoor vaping rules, like where, to give you an idea of where you can and can't vape indoors. And then the other thing I want to talk about, because we get so many questions regarding CBD through our website, is kind of the state by state legislation with CBD, and this is another interesting one because there's absolutely nothing out there to show that CBD is harmful in any way, shape, or form. They've essentially, you have two. There's more than two, but you have two agents of action in marijuana, the CBD and the THC. THC is the hallucinogen, the what gives you the high. The CBD affects the body in other ways, and we're just kind of figuring out what all those different ways are. It's proven to be effective with pain relief and relieving anxiety and staging off seizures and all these. Everyone obviously knows of the famous Charlotte's Web story. So as we find more and more of these things out, people are using it to help them sleep, to help them focus, to help them calm their nerves. And as it's becoming more popular, because we do so much work with CBD on the website, we're getting a lot of questions regarding it. So I just kind of wanted to give a quick update. So states where CBD is just straight up completely legal, anything you want to do with CBD. Of those states, you would include Arizona, Arkansas, for the most part, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware. some of these states, it's worth, so for instance, in the state of Florida, CBD is legal, but it's not regulated yet. And I think that's important to note. And I think if you're somebody that wants to buy CBD, I think where you buy it is extremely important. So in the state of Florida, they've started the process of putting together regulations, but it is legal at the time, which means, you can buy products that, haven't been held to the standards of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, which, hopefully they said early 2020, there should be some regulations out soon on that. So in Georgia, medical marijuana is illegal, but so what the way that they define it is less than 5% THC is legal in the state, but you have to have certain medical conditions to access it. So Hawaii has a straight up ban. Idaho has a straight up ban. In Illinois, all CBD use is legal. Indiana recently passed a law to make the sale and use of CBD legal. Again, Iowa, same thing. In Iowa, you have medical marijuana dispensaries opening in December of 2 years ago, so December of 2018. And CBD is sold separate from those medical marijuana dispensaries, and it can be sold without a dispensary license. So CBD is completely legal in Iowa. So same thing in Kansas. Similar to Georgia, it has to be less than 5% CBD has to contain no more than 5% THC, but if it meets that, then it's essentially legal. You can legally grow, manufacture, and own CBD products in Kentucky. Louisiana has banned all forms of CBD that have THC in them. In Maine, they are treating CBD as a food. They're one of the few states to actually do that. So sales of CBD products are legal as long as no medical claims are made to promote the product. Maryland recently made all the CBD the sale of all topical CBD products legal. Massachusetts released a policy statement that prohibits the sale of food containing CBD products that make medicinal claims, animal feed with hemp, and the sale of unprocessed raw plant material to consumers. Legislation has already been filed to reverse that policy in Massachusetts. Michigan, all forms of CBD are legal. Minnesota had the first dedicated CBD and hemp store open in December of 2018. So CBD is legal in Minnesota. CBD oil must be tested by the National Center for National Products Research and dispensed by the Department of Pharmacy Services at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in order to get your hands on it in Mississippi. So not necessarily legal there. I mean, it's legal, but they've made it extremely. It's kind of like guns in Mexico. There's only one way to get one. It's a little bit of a process there. Same thing in Missouri. I think Missouri has 2 locations that you can purchase CBD, and you have to get a hemp extract registration card in order to be able to do so. Montana actually doesn't have any laws in place right now, so it's neither legal or illegal. But CBD is being sold in Montana at the moment. Same thing in Nebraska. The Nebraska Hemp Farming Act exempts hemp and hemp products from the state's Controlled Substances Act. However, without any specific protections for the retail sale of the CBD, there is a concern since law enforcement actions against CBD products could continue. Though CBD products are legal in Nevada, CBD as a food additive is not legal. CBD infused edible products are considered illegal in Nevada as of today. CBD is completely legal in New Hampshire. New Jersey actually just passed a final approval on a hemp program that makes CBD legal. Same thing in New Mexico. May of 2019 is when Mexico legalized CBD use. In New York, we're still waiting. A law is pending governor's signature for the regulation of hemp production and hemp extracts, including CBD. The city of New York banned the use of CBD in food and drinks in 2018. In North Carolina, only patients with epilepsy are allowed to use or possess CBD, and it remains illegal to cultivate and produce hemp extract in the state. North Dakota, hemp is still considered a controlled substance in the state constitution. If it's extracted from legally produced hemp and contains less than 0.3% THC, it is not illegal to possess CBD in North Dakota. There's a few states that use that number, 0.3% THC, so you can find that online pretty easily if you do a little looking around for it, or just if you head to Vapestaff and you check out our list of CBD recommendations by state, you can find that there as well. So Oklahoma, retail sale of CBD was made legal in 2019 in Oklahoma. In Oregon, CBD has to be tested and certified by a lab, but it is legal. In Pennsylvania, hemp-derived CBD is fine, but anything made from marijuana has to go through the state's medical marijuana system. So you have to kind of watch where you're getting it if you live in Pennsylvania. Rhode Island is one of the states that have 0.3% rule in place. South Carolina, CBD is completely legal. South Dakota, the Attorney General in South Dakota released a statement in March of 2019 saying that hemp and CBD are still illegal in South Dakota. We expect 2020 that rule to change. It looks like they're researching it, or they're trying to do more research on it before presenting a bill to legalize it. Tennessee actually has a 0.9% rule in place. So slightly different there. Walgreens and CVS both sell CBD in their stores in Tennessee. Again, it's less than 0.9% THC. Texas recently passed a hemp growth program that protects hemp products like CBD and includes labeling and retailer registration requirements. Again, not the first time we've heard that in this podcast. There's several states that are basically saying that stores are allowed to sell CBD. They just cannot, and again, they can sell them even if it has a trace amount of THC. They just cannot make any medical claims regarding it at this time because that hasn't been proven yet. In Utah, you have to apply for and obtain a hemp extract registration card in order to be able to buy CBD. Vermont, CBD is legally sold and bought in Vermont. Virginia, all non-food-based CBD use is legal. In Washington, general use and high CBD compliant products may be sold at any licensed marijuana store. So again, you've got to find a marijuana store in Washington to buy CBD. You can legally buy CBD in West Virginia as of, I believe it was December of 2018. The state actually modified their hemp licensing program to ensure that CBD sales could continue in the state. Any Wisconsin citizen can possess CBD oil as long as their physician certifies that it's being used to treat a medical condition. And in the state of Wyoming, the state law does not allow for the use and possession of hemp or hemp products, including CBD. So that should give you an idea of where your state stands on CBD. Again, that's changing rapidly. The science on CBD is evolving. And just a few other interesting notes here. As far as whether or not you can carry CBD on a plane, it has to contain 0.3% of THC or less. So again, there's that number again. That's something to keep in mind because that's a TSA rule. So again, and in this case as well, it has to be an FDA approved marijuana based drug. So if you're going to bring CBD on a plane, then you need to know exactly what you're bringing on. And then this is just one other note we had written down to add to this. As far as CBD and drug tests go, because we get this asked a lot. CBD itself does not appear on drug tests for marijuana. There's a chance that you could still fail a drug test since testing of CBD products is largely unregulated. A product might be mislabeled and actually contain more THC than it claims. So your best bet is to only obtain products from a company that can provide a certificate of analysis that certifies that the product was tested and only claims or contains the amount of THC it claims. So you want to know exactly what's in that if you think there's any chance that you could be drug tested and, could be in some serious trouble if marijuana comes back on that drug test. So, again, just buy CBD through a regulated source that sells tested CBD with a certificate analysis that lets you know exactly how much THC is in it, and you should be good. And it, not only for bringing it on a plane or as far as drug tests go, but even if you live in these states that require you to have CBD that contains less than 0.3%. And again, if you live in those states, you're probably better off visiting Walgreens or CVS or Earth Origins or Nature Foods or whatever you have in your area and buying it from there. Okay, so that is the state-by-state breakdown of e-liquid, e-cig, and CBD bans. We will be back again next week with another podcast. Should be uploaded by the middle of the week next week, and we're going to talk vaping products and pricing. We're going to do some comparison, help you avoid buying non-authentic products, and also help you save some money and buy products that are a complete apples to apples comparison, but oftentimes you can find them 50% cheaper if you know where to shop them. We're going to take a look at some real examples of that as well, and talk about a tool that we're building to help you save money as far as that goes. So thank you for listening. Check us out at vapestaff.com. We'll see you next time.